Hey y'all, I want to talk about Hyper-Like Breaker. This is the kind of long-awaited follow-up to Hyper-Light Drifter, which is a game that came out a number of years ago. I played a little bit of it. It wasn't necessarily my type of game. It's a top-down viewpoint where you kind of explore the world and take out creatures and stuff. And I liked a lot of things about it. I was just not very good at it. It's one of those where I would need a little bit extra help, and even with the extra help and trying to figure out how to get through an easier way, I still struggle with it at certain points. But I know it was a well-received game. The game looked great. I would suggest checking that out if you haven't played it yet. It's definitely worth your time checking it out for those that like that style of game. So they made a follow-up to that, but this game is different. It's actually not top-down, and it doesn't have that old-school bit look to it. It's actually like 3D, and it's a platformer. It's got elements from the original game. There's certain ways like the structures look and the characters look that are similar to the original game, but it's done in a new sort of way. And when I first heard about this game, I thought maybe I might like this one more than the other, because it was like, okay, third-person action, that's kind of more my style anyway. It reminded me look-wise of like Solar Ash, which I played a couple years ago, and which I like that game. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll give this a shot. I was lucky enough to try it out. It is in early access, just to let y'all know. So, you know, it's not 100% perfect or anything. There's still a little bit tech stuff with it. And I want to mention as well, what's more special about this game is that this one does support multiplayer and playing with other people. And I say that because as I was playing this game, it did feel like it was tailored more as a co-op sort of experience. I played it single player. I didn't try the online multiplayer portion just because that's not of much interest to me and I didn't really have anybody to play with. So I didn't check that out, although that was an option that was there. But playing through the game, it reminded me of Returnal a lot, in the sense that it's not just an open world you go through like I thought it was. It's a procedurally generated world that can get reset after a certain length of time. So you're going through the world and you're like, hey, you have to defeat these 3 bosses essentially, but you have to collect these items to get to the boss to beat them. And then once you beat all the bosses, you beat the world. And then you have a certain number of lives. I believe it's around 4 or so, at least that's what I had. And if you die and get all those lives taken away and you don't complete your task, then the whole world gets reset completely. And you have to start over from the beginning. And that's why it reminded me of Returnal. It's a game for people that like starting over, re-going through again, a little bit of roguelike there, starting over, going right through again. So again, gameplay-wise, it's a lot different than the original game. But just for me, it's another style of game, though, that I don't really like all that much. So yeah, as you load in every time, you can unlock like shops that you can use to buy weapons and all that. You can upgrade certain abilities. You can upgrade the weapons if needed and things of that sort. And you find weapons and stuff out the world. The cool thing I do like about this is that it gives you the map and shows you all the markers of all the main stuff you need. You have markers of the items you need to beat the bosses. You have like a fast travel save state marker that if you die, you start where your little save point was. And it shows you, hey, you go over here to collect a new weapon, or you go over here to collect a new item. And especially with the items, too, it gives you options. So usually if you defeat an enemy or a boss and they drop an item, you can scroll through and choose which one you want to add to help best your experience with the game as a player and kind of what route you want to go. So there's some leeway there. And it's nice to, you know, collect stuff and then go back to the hub once you die and buy new things to upgrade yourself to go in a little stronger, which I was feeling a little bit. I know I felt overwhelmed with all the enemies and stuff, but I still got that feeling that I was like progressing as a character a little bit, so I thought that was nice. And that's part of the reason why I kept playing for the bit of it that I did. And seeing that change helped a lot in terms of figuring out how to navigate the map, because even though the maps regenerate each time, it still has its own separate sections that are kind of the same, and there's star ratings with the bosses in terms of like, oh, this boss, you only have to collect 2 items. This one you have to collect 4 or 5. So it gives you a sense of like, oh, the boss with the smaller items might be the boss to hit first. Maybe it's the weaker boss. Fortunately for me, I never got that far to getting the bosses. I was lucky to get one of the items. Sometimes I ran into an issue where an item was in a location that I needed, which are these kind of orbs, and I couldn't figure out how to get my way through it because the area was blocked. So I was a little confused by that. It was really fun, though, going around the world in terms of the platforming, but you have a little hoverboard surf thing, and you're surfing around the world, and that's always kind of fun to do when you can just kind of surf and glide your way through the world. So that was a nice addition to it. I really liked in terms of traversal, and the combat was fun, too. It was a little simple, but, you know, melee smash, and you have like a little weapon that you can use as well. And so it was fun to play. Again, it's just more the difficulty was a big issue for me, to the point where I became frustrated with it. And I played through the world resets like 4 or 5 times. And, you know, I was like, oh, maybe this time I'll do better or not, you know, and I would struggle with it. I would still struggle even getting to the first boss, no matter how many times the world reset and I reset. I would try a different path, but I would still run into the same issue of getting overwhelmed at a certain point. Like, no matter which way I went, I'd be like, oh, I'm doing fine for a while. Then I get to hit with a certain enemy, and even if I didn't get to a save point that was nearby, which was frustrating sometimes too, I would have to go like all the way back and then glide my way over again, and it felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again, even when changing tactics. So I would recommend trying this out if you have people to play it with. I don't know if I would play this solo necessarily, at least at this point, because difficulty-wise it felt a little bit tough. Again, that could be just me though, because you all know me, I play normal to easy difficulty, so maybe I just need to get good or whatever the kids say. But overall, it's a solid experience if you have others to enjoy it with. Again, it's on early access. You can check out to see. I'm sure it'll tweak some things as time goes by. So I definitely like to check it out, you know, a couple months down the road to see if my experience with it is different, and, you know, maybe give you an update on that sort of thing.